I'm not gonna lie, I think we've taken things too far. Hi, my name is Sydney, welcome back to my channel. Before we launch in and do the thing, this video is sponsored by slug.com. Because hell yeah. Now, full disclosure, this is not the video I had planned this week. That one is still coming in a couple days, I imagine, so please sit tight for that. But I did find this particular story the other night, and it just really annoyed me. And because I'm nothing if not caring, I thought it was very necessary for all of you to be annoyed along with me. No, don't worry about it. You're welcome. At this stage, almost all of you will have heard about cultural appropriation. It's a thing that happens when white people decide to put braids in their hair, or wear Native American headdresses for Halloween. Little known fact, but every time you appropriate someone else's culture, a leftist just keels over and dies. Sorry, I didn't mean dies, I mean cries. But for those of you who are interested in a more concrete definition, the internet says that cultural appropriation is the act of taking or using things from a culture that is not your own without showing understanding or respect for that particular culture.
What? Are you serious?
But apparently, and this is totally new to me, cultural appropriation extends into food. Because I guess it's 2020 and you can only cook things that align with your skin color.
Mimiki weep.
Asians making pizza? You gotta go. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules. Take it up with Supreme Overlord Kamala. So an Asian woman in Toronto discovered that a white-owned restaurant or shop, I guess, called Ripe Nutrition was selling Vietnamese-style foods and bone broth across from another restaurant called Golden Turtle Pho. Yes, I am very aware that I am saying that wrong, but I only speak two languages. English and bad French. So don't yell at me. She was also upset that the owners sexualized jerk sauce and faux hot sauce and made superfood dumplings for profit. Y'all, I'm sick. And obviously the insinuation here is that white owners or white people should not be making Vietnamese style food because cultural appropriation and whatever. I mean, I don't know what offends me more, the sexualized jerk sauce or the fact that a person who is clearly not Southern is using the word y'all. Check your privilege, Evie. Ivy? Whatever. Our friend goes on to write a series of additional tweets saying that the cultures from which these foods are being taken fight daily for legitimacy, that this lacks historical understanding, that she threw away her Chinese food lunches at school because white kids would make fun of her for it, and she's upset that people are taking her culture and selling it. Okay. Yeah, I guess my main question here is, what legitimacy precisely are these cultures fighting for every day when, in many major cities in Western countries, they have entire areas dedicated to the cultures in question. She even says, basically in another tweet, that white people shouldn't do photo shoots in Chinatown. Chinatown, in her own words. I rest my case. If having an entire area of a city dedicated to specific cultures is not legitimacy, I don't know what is. What is even happening? Now, ordinarily, situations like this tend to stop here. But oh no, my friends, that is not the end of this story. Because it's 2020. And every day's a punishment. So in addition to calling out the white-owned business, this person also, it appears, went to the effort of reaching out to other stores in the area, including the other restaurant, who expressed appreciation for what she was doing. In addition to all of that, another business in the area called Permission, an apparel store, said that they had cut ties with Ripe Nutrition. At least, I think that's what happened. I reread this tweet like 50 times and I still don't understand what's written here. The store that shared space, that spot. Space, that spot. What? Just a thought, but rather than directing your attention towards, destroying businesses and whatever, maybe your time would be better suited going towards improving your reading and writing comprehension skills. You're feeling extra mean today, aren't you? In addition to all of this, Ripe Nutrition's founder issued an apology on Instagram, and boy oh boy, will this apology take you for a wild ride. Here are some of my favorite parts. First, I want to thank each and every person who took the time to bring this to my attention. Something that I now recognize should never have been their burden to bear. Yeah, because screaming at businesses on the internet is definitely a burden. Let's continue. It is not the responsibility of people of color to educate me, a white woman, on why cultural appropriation isn't acceptable. That responsibility is mine and mine alone. I just want to remind you all, we're talking about food. Food!
You eat babies!
She continues to apologize, saying that she only intended to celebrate culture and made branding decisions to stand out in a saturated marketplace, but crossed the line into appropriation, and she's sorry to the people that she belittled and hurt. She goes on to add that she removed the offending products from her website and has stopped wholesale sales on them. I have consulted with my staff, and we are in the process of sourcing cultural sensitivity training for us to understand and learn from as a team.
We do not fully understand what causes Alzheimer's disease.
Cultural sensitivity training for food creation. Hey, yeah, do you know where Scotty is? He said he'd pick me up like 2 hours ago. Nah, I'm sorry. I don't know. Things are getting really bad down here. They're starting to attack people over the foods they cook. Ah, well, in that case, Scotty probably has a pretty heavy work schedule. Yeah, lots of beaming up to do. Yeah, so I'm sorry that your planet's full of idiots, though. I guess that's what happens when you decide to put warning labels on cleaning supplies. But there's always a clincher when it comes to these stories, and the one in this case is genuinely the best and worst thing about it. The founder of Ripe Nutrition posts leftist content not only on her personal Facebook, which I totally stalked and found, but also on her business Instagram. Also, it is so nice that she's pro-ho. Some gardening tools just don't get enough recognition these days while everyone's out here focusing on the shovel. We get it. It digs holes. It is a miracle you made it to adulthood. So it might not be very nice to admit, but I do find it quite humorous that she's being eaten now by the same ideology that she promoted in the past. And now, as a result, she's losing business deals, she'll have to spend money on cultural sensitivity training, she's unlikely to gain any new customers to her shop from bending the knee, and all over what? Bone broth?
Wait a minute!
People being lunatics on Twitter and potentially destroying your business is yet another reason why people are checking out alternative social media sites, which is why today's video is sponsored by Slug.com. Slug is an ad-free, free speech platform. In light of the crackdown by big tech companies, which, mind you, is probably only gonna get worse, many of us are having a hard time discussing these sort of topics like cultural appropriation without getting banned or deleted. Slug prides itself on free speech and actually letting people have their say, and personally, I hope it becomes a replacement for Reddit, which is basically overrun by liberals at this point. It's totally free, so click the link in the description and check it out for yourselves. Truthfully, cultural appropriation has never made sense to me, because we live in a time where we are told constantly how great it is to have cultures coming together. And in fact, most of the time when we talk about multiculturalism and its benefits, people always bring up the diversity of food. But nowadays, it seems like multiculturalism can only exist if we segregate everyone and force them to only engage with the cultures from which they come, which, and I don't know if anyone's pointed this out to people on the left, but that completely defeats the purpose of cultural symbiosis. So, as per usual, I wanted to know how common this is. And this comes as a shock to no one, but shutting down businesses over cultural appropriation has happened several times in the past. In 2017, in Portland, a burrito shop was forced to close because of cultural appropriation. In 2019, a New York City restaurant was forced to close. In July of this year, a popsicle stand was forced to close. And each of these businesses was white-owned. Some people even went as far as to create a list of white-owned businesses selling non-white food, a list which has now been deleted, but at the time listed about 60 Portland area restaurants with white owners and the food they serve. It also recommended competing restaurants and encouraged people to go to those restaurants instead. Noah, we just don't have time to wait for Scotty. Get the boat. What's hilarious to me about this particular issue is that given the current political climate with the discussions about Black Lives Matter and what have you, people have been creating their own lists of Black-owned restaurants and establishments and what have you, encouraging people to go there and support these business owners. But many of these Black-owned businesses, and restaurants in particular, are making foods from white European cultures and Hispanic cultures. I don't know if they got the memo, but that's a big no-no. Roba's Pizza in California, you can't make pizza. That's Italian. I'm gonna need you to close. Crève Bistro in Lafayette, that's French. Close. Calavera in Oakland, Mexican food. Close. Solely vegan? You're not a broccoli? You have to close. I'm sorry about it. I don't make the rules. I'm just trying to stop racism and cultural insensitivity. But this doesn't start and end with food. In fact, I found another related story that happened in July of this year. I guess that July was a particularly active month for appropriating culture. A business owner was accused of racism and cultural appropriation when a photo of her in her shop was posted on the internet. Why was she racist, you ask? Well, it wasn't for her business. It wasn't for what the business does. No. It was because she has dreadlocks, which allegedly she now has cut. After a lengthy diatribe on Instagram about her indiscretions as a horrible white person, a woman literally cut her own hair to appease the mob. We've reached peak stupidity, and I would like to get off this planet now. Just take me under the earth. Take me to the crab people. I will freely submit. I'm done. Funnily enough, this story reminded me of another story that happened on a college campus where a black girl was basically verbally abusing a white guy because he had dreadlocks.
You're saying that I can't have a hairstyle because of your culture? Why?
The problem with so much of this is that besides the fact that it's not fairly applied or even universally applied, is that it's also very unclear where the lines are. It wasn't too long ago where we saw voice actors stepping down from television shows or other things that they were working on because their actual ethnicity and race did not line up with the character that they were voicing. I know that that doesn't necessarily fall under the umbrella of cultural appropriation, but it certainly has a very strong relationship to it. And these events reminded me of one of my favorite video games, God of War. The main character in the game, Kratos, is a Greek god, and he is white, or very pale, or beige, as we like to be called. But in the latest 2018 game, Kratos is voiced by a black guy called Christopher Judge.
You do not know everything, boy.
No. But at least I know the truth now.
Truth.
Based on leftist logic, shouldn't Kratos have actually been voiced by a Greek person, or a white person, or someone from the Mediterranean, or someone who's like a little bit tanned, but also kind of not really? Last thing we want to do is offend the Greeks. They might decide to start a new empire, but I guess they'd have to get out of crushing debt first. Cultural appropriation as an idea has become considerably more intense over the last few years. Most of it circulates clothing, fashion, and hair, but every so often it branches into other areas and is often associated with sister issues like blackfishing or blackface. And while it appears that it's predominantly white people being accused of cultural appropriation, every so often, on the odd occasion, there are some non-white individuals who are attacked for it. For example, a story popped up in July of this year, again, where a black woman was accused of cultural appropriation because she participated in Irish dancing. In the last week, Cardi B was attacked for ripping off Hindu culture on a magazine cover. When I was reading about why cultural appropriation is so bad, I found one particular research paper and an excerpt from it that I think really highlights the contradictory nature of liberal ideology. The author argues that colorblind ideology provides whites with the discursive resources to justify their presence in the hip-hop sense, and more importantly, to appropriate hip-hop by removing the racially coded meanings embedded in the music and replacing them with colorblind ones. This comes back to what I touched on before, how it is predominantly the people on the left who are pushing for things like greater immigration, greater diversity, and multiculturalism. But at the same time, they are the same people who gatekeep, refuse to let white people participate in particular cultural elements or certain things, and really don't seem to like the results of embraced multiculturalism. You gotta be colorblind, but if you are colorblind, then you'll probably participate in cultural things to which you're not entitled, that you want to embrace with open arms, but actually aren't allowed to embrace them with open arms because that's racism and cultural appropriation, and you're a bad person for it. And thus, importantly, as a result, you are stealing, offending, and degrading that cultural element. In the end, and in my opinion, there's something very contradictory about all of this, especially when you consider the fact that many groups do not believe that white and European cultures can be appropriated. So in saying all of this, I personally will continue to be perplexed by these people, their rationale, and their ideologies when it comes to this particular issue, especially when it comes to destroying small businesses, and especially when it comes to picking and choosing the situations in which they apply this logic. Now I open the floor to all of you. What do you all think? Is cultural appropriation real? Can it be applied to food? Where's the line on this? Do you think this situation has been blown out of proportion? And what do you generally make of this issue overall? As always, if you like the video, hit subscribe and the thumbs up button. If you want to leave a comment, feel free to do so, just be respectful about it. And I will see you guys next time.